The Nike SB Ishod. There is a lot of hype around this shoe. They look really cool. Today we're gonna take an in-depth look about everything with this shoe and find out if it's actually worth that price tag. I really need to get some proper board hangers. Make sure to drop a like, give me a sub. It helps out a lot, and let's get straight into the review. First things first, these shoes are a hybrid. They are a cup sole and a Volk mix. As you can see, they have put a vulcanized layer, this gray layer, all the way around the shoe, and it covers a good portion of the shoe, and then just kind of slapped a cup on the bottom. That's what this black part is. Everybody kind of understands the give and take nature with Volks versus cups. Volks give you a better flick, they're a lot more grippy and responsive, but they're not as durable. Cup soles typically have a nice, really chunky heel, which is good for heel flips, and they also last a little bit longer. When companies do this hybrid thing, they want to try and kind of combine the best of both worlds into one shoe. Another thing that makes this shoe super interesting is there are these little side air vents in the middle of the face of the shoe on both sides, and those are there just for breathability. When I saw these in the skate shop, the combination of the Volk, the cup, and the shoe vents were kind of the reason they even caught my eye. Another thing I didn't notice at first that these shoes come with are the lace loops. There are some lace loops that run up the bottom couple of eyelets. They are there to protect the shoelaces, obviously, and prevent you from having to change your laces every couple of sessions. I think the main reason I didn't notice them at first until I had actually gone through a lace already was because most shoes don't come with some kind of lace protection in mind. Some classic suede for the main bulk of the shoe, you know, the best material for skate shoes ever made. Overall, I'd put the whole shoe from a weight and thickness perspective in kind of like a mid-tier. It's not super thin like an Anthony Van Engelen, but it's not super chunky like maybe a Tom Penny. Another thing with these shoes is the Nike React insole. I believe they have this foam on some kind of like running shoes or something. I don't know, I don't pay attention to anything but skating. Just feeling these insoles, you can feel they're really stiff, but they have a lot of give. They're really flexible. Very, very interesting. And when I felt this in the store, I kind of was more interested in feeling the insole than anything. And I mean, just looking at the shoe, it looks really cool. It really catches people's eyes. There were a lot of people that asked me about these shoes while I was at the skate parks. And I think that's just because they're ISHODS, and ISHODS awesome. So how did they feel? Well, I did skate the first day I was in these. If you want to see that video, you can click up there. This started off easy. Kicking was very smooth and fast. I didn't feel like there was any awkward stiffness with the shoe, like you had to work in the materials a whole lot before you actually started getting into skating them. About the only thing I really remember is having to adjust for my flick quite a bit, especially for kick flips. Board feel in general was really good. It being kind of like a medium category in thickness and weight makes it kind of have a nice middle ground between protection and board feel. I don't ever remember really feeling like I wasn't in control until near the end. One thing I did notice is they have a flatter profile on the sides, which I think really helped with really rappy tricks, because these shoes did rappy tricks really well. I'm talking tray flips, big spins, impossibles, stuff like that. Very responsive and predictable on that end. My main issue with how they felt was more with how they flicked. When I was doing kick flips in these, I just felt like I could never get a really good flick. It just wasn't boned enough, it didn't have enough oomph, it wasn't able to get up there, everything looked rocketed and weird. I was able to do good ones, especially when I was really trying to do good ones, but that's the thing, I really had to try to do good ones. It wasn't just brainless, I had to actually think about it, which led to when you're doing more technical things like flip in, flip out kind of thing, you can't just do it. You have to actually think about it, which makes it take a little bit longer and it makes it a little bit harder. I guess I just wasn't super comfortable with kickflips in these shoes, which interestingly, I did really like the hard flips I did in these shoes. They were pretty level. I did land more toward the nose, which isn't what I like, but they look good. This shoe really behaves more like a cup sole than a Volk in my opinion. So heel flips and all heel flip variations just felt really good because of the chunky heel. Insoles, I have no complaints. In fact, I'm really impressed with them. After initial pack out, it felt more like these fit you like a glove and made your shoes fit way better. Impact resistance was really good with them. Taking these down mid-sized drops relatively frequently, I don't remember ever experiencing any foot fatigue or any like real issues with these insoles. When I would come home, my feet didn't feel like they were gonna fall off. Another thing that they do a lot of marketing with on this shoe is the tread pattern. They talk this tread up a lot in their marketing stuff. I don't think it deserved as much praise as it got, but in general, I felt like the tread was really good. It was definitely grippy. It felt really nice adjusting for things. You didn't have to try too hard to adjust for certain tricks. It was grippy when you needed it to be, and it was just slick enough that it made it so you could adjust. Now with durability, I'm kind of gonna change how I do this because this durability metric is really like based on how much you skate and what kind of tricks you do when you skate. Because if you just do solely flat, you're gonna wear through shoes a lot faster than some guy that only does rails. So with durability, I just kind of want to focus on points of failure from here on out. So I was in these shoes for about 2 months, which I do not knock them for because I've been skating a lot more recently than say I was in the middle of winter when shoes were lasting me 4 months. So the first thing to go on this was actually this toe cap right here. As you can see, I wore through the suede, I wore through the Volk piece that's supposed to come over, I wore through the main cup, and I also wore through the secondary canvasy layer. This wasn't making me bleed or making me go through socks or anything like crazy. In fact, I don't even remember feeling my board, even though it goes all the way through. So there was still some life left in the toe cap, but it was on its way out because it's all starting to peel up around the sides right there. Which is kind of crazy because typically with a lot of shoes, the first point of failure is actually this side where most of your flicking takes place. This actually held up really well. The second point of failure for me was these lace loops on the inside right here. They're literally being pulled away from the main body of the shoe. This is leading to the shoes feeling really loose and not super controlled, kind of all over the place. This is the point of failure that made me change shoes, the sole. So as good as the sole felt, there is basically no sole left right here. In fact, there's little tiny holes in it. You probably can't see on camera, but this part of the sole maybe has 1 to 2 sessions left in it. And with where it sits right now, it feels extremely slick and it's really hard to really have that finer detailed control. Overall, I was skating for about 2 months. I was relatively happy with how I skated in them, as well as about how long they lasted me considering how much I've been skating recently. So the final question, are these shoes worth $100? Yes and no, I definitely think this shoe has things going for it, and there is something to be said about performance over durability at the detriment of cost. The biggest reason I would never buy these again was definitely the problems I was having with my flick. They acted more like a cup sole than a Volk. Even though they tried to be a hybrid, you can tell that the star was kind of the cup. I just wasn't a fan. Maybe something they could do to remedy this is kind of hybrid the front out a little harder, maybe make the initial cup lower and add double the Volk or something, or give it a Volk patch in the front so it's just grippy and it has a little bit more of a Volk feel. But really this is a preference thing. I would like a classic sharper shape. I feel like that helps with kickflips and certain tricks that I do a little better. I didn't have any issues really doing any particular trick. It just took a second to get used to it. I guess I've just been skating these sharper profiled shoes for so long that it's kind of hard to get used to, but maybe the flat would grow on me as well. This is also a preference thing. One thing I do think would be nice to see is a better toe cap. Maybe an interior rubber cap like a Vans has, or just something to make it last a little longer, considering that was the first point of failure and that's a really high use area of the shoe. You would think that they would have something better there. The other thing, considering I hadn't even had a hole in the side of the shoe and the sole was gone, you already know how I feel about that one. Soles should be the very last thing to wear out. I mean, the only thing they could really do to fix the sole part is maybe make it a little bit thicker or use a different kind of rubber that's a little stronger, maybe a little grippier. Thinking about it, that would also help with the Volk thing, because if you rub a regular Volk and this shoe on the ground, the ISHODS skate a lot smoother than the Volk. The Volk has a lot more grip. But maybe a slightly grippier rubber. If you put them side by side with like a Kyle Walker, this sole is noticeably thinner. The main thing that I think this shoe, and really almost every shoe, can do better is with lace protection. Now, one thing that this shoe did do right is they actually had some form of lace protection in mind when they made them. Most don't. At least this one has the loops. But With the loops, this really should be a non-issue in my opinion, and maybe this is a one-off because I haven't really seen anybody talk about this happening with their pair of ISHODS, so this could just be separated to me, but this review is based on my experience.
The lace loops separating from the main body.
I mean, the solution for this one is really simple. Like, I mean, just make it have better contact so it's not pulling away from the main body of the shoe, because the only way to fix that is to pull it tighter, and when the problem is it's being pulled away from the main body of the shoe, pulling it tighter is only exacerbating the problem. I would like to see the loops go up the entire side of the shoe and not just the bottom 3 eyelets, because main points of contact for heel flips are up here. These top ones. And in fact, this rubbery eyelet right here is one of the main ones that will break. Up here is typically not that big a deal. They break on every shoe and you typically have to knot things together a little bit to get them to work anyway. But the only way to get these lace loops to actually work right and not make it so you have to change laces every couple of sessions is to completely skip this middle loop and go through the suede loops. That's what I had to do. Doing that, I only went through one lace, and it was mainly because I didn't even know the lace loops existed. And considering there are lace makers out there that make laces that are way stronger, this should really be a non-issue in the first place. I don't know why every shoe manufacturer doesn't just figure out how to get their shoelaces to last longer. One thing I don't like about every pair of Nikes I've ever had though is they don't come with extra laces. Skateboarders go through laces and it's really hard to find stock laces from anybody but maybe Lakai or Vans. I searched for a while and the only way to get these laces from Nike was to order them. It ruins part of the shoe that makes it look good. You can't even argue that the lace loop thing was done on the bottom 3 just for aesthetic purposes, because you're losing that if you break laces and you have to wait 2 weeks to order them. That also being said, would it really be that hard to put the loops all the way up? Even if it's an aesthetic thing, the people that care about the aesthetic thing won't use them. The people that skate in them like I will use them. Anyway, I think we've beat that horse enough. Those are the main drawbacks. Overall, I think these shoes are very good. A lot of attention to detail and time went into designing these, and they skate really good. Every shoe is gonna have its problems, and the only way they can get fixed is if you point them out. It's a big chunk of change for what they are and how long they lasted. And like I said, if I skated multiple pairs of these, I'd probably solve the flick issue and it would become a non-issue. They look really cool, and I feel like Nike and ISHOD did a pretty good job with the first edition. Maybe they'll get the kinks worked out if they release another one. Maybe not. That's up to them. But as they sit compared to the other shoes that I've done reviews on this channel, I'd probably put them in the top 3. They're really good. If you've been thinking about them and you really like some of the things on the shoe, definitely give them a try. You never know what you're gonna like. Anyway, if you found this video helpful, drop me a like. If this isn't your first time here, maybe give me a sub. Helps out a lot. If you've skated in these shoes and feel like I missed something or glossed over something that needs to be talked a little bit more, or even I missed something really good that you really liked about the shoe, leave it in the comments below. I'd love to talk about it. Anyway, hopefully you enjoyed. See you in the next one.